It's 8:03 here on Tree Country 1330. It is a balmy 37 out. Let me tell you, 37 has never felt so warm, I don't think, after being cold for so long. We have got Senator Jean Leising joining us this morning. Good morning, Senator Leising.
Yes.
Okay, there we got you. Good morning.
Okay, yeah.
You
Good
are
morning.
you are wrapping. This is the week, right? Are we still intending to wrap up session by the end of this week?
No, it'll be the end of next
week. Okay.
The 27th, so, but we are approaching the end with lots of important issues still not determined. Actually, just to kind of give you an idea, there were 112 bills that passed out of the Senate and went to the House in the first what we call the first half of the session. And then, ironically, there were 112 bills, exactly the same number, that passed out of the House and have come to the Senate. So currently, those bills are being heard in committees. Some of the committees have finished their work now, but there are still some committees. An important committee will occur Thursday in appropriations. That's our money committee. I'm not on that one, but that gets the opportunity to review a lot of bills that have passed out of other committees that could have a fiscal impact. So it's a important time at the legislature. And I would tell you, because of the fact that we had the redistricting time used in December, 2 weeks of it, this short session is extremely short. Normally it would continue until mid-March. And so many things are getting pushed along pretty fast, which concerns me as a legislator, because I surely hope that we have a good handle on everything that's in every bill, because a lot of changes are made in the process. One thing I can tell you on a positive note is that the 4 agriculture bills that I authored that passed out of the Senate Agriculture Committee have now also passed the House and are on their way to the governor for either his signature, allowing it to become law without his signature, or for his veto. I think that he will sign all 4 of these bills because they were not, really difficult, I don't think. The one bill has to do with allowing out-of-state veterinarians to practice in Indiana with something called reciprocity, where we recognize their out-of-state license. And then another has to do with continuing the soybean and pork checkoff programs, market development programs, if in fact the federal government would disband their involvement in that program. Another has to do with making sure that feed additives and whatever for both animal feed and pet food are put into statute and not just in rules. And then the other one has to do with Soil Conservation Service and making sure that their commissions are full and their reporting is done the way it should be. So those 4 bills are definitely on their way to the governor. So we'll see. But there are a lot of other important bills, Emily. A couple that come to mind. One that is now also going to, it's moving forward, is the Senate Joint Resolution 1, which has to do with bail reform. And currently, 23 states have, at least judges have some discretion in bail reform. 9 states have absolute no bail allowed. And I think that, the examples given in Indiana in our legislature were the fact that, we've had some people in the last 3 years that were let out on bail, and within a very short time after they were on bail, they actually committed a crime, including murder. So I think that this will give judges more discretion. Some people may not like it, but we've got to make sure that people that are going to harm people actually are off the street. Now, what happens in this case, because it's a change in our Constitution, now that it is passed, both the Senate and the House, this year as well as in 23, in a separately elected group of legislators, it now will go to the voters in November to see yes or no if they agree with denying bail. So that's something that your listeners should know that they'll be getting to weigh in on as to whether or not they agree with the denial of bail.
That'll be one of the questions that comes up on the ballot. A lot of people say there was questions, but I didn't know anything was going on, or I didn't know anything about it. So that would be one of the questions that may be posed.
That will be, yes. And, always it seems like somebody will ask, well, I didn't even know what that one thing was on the ballot. Well, this is something that will be on the ballot, and it will be a question asking them specifically, if they are support removing the requirement for a person to receive bail. Another big bill that is still finding its way through the House is Senate Bill 1, which is trying to fight the abuses in welfare, Medicaid, the SNAP food stamp program. Everybody that listens to national news has heard about the problems in other states. Well, I think the truth is there's problems with those abuse of those programs in every state, including ours. And it's something, I hate to say that we really need to take a look at, but we do. And so one of the things that's going to happen is that there's going to be more screening and discretion used before people can just automatically get on Medicaid or be eligible for the SNAP program, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. The other thing is that I think we're going to see definitely more discretion in regard to what can be purchased with their food stamps. It's going to put into state law that it cannot be used for candy and soft drinks. And that started, I guess, a year or so ago, but it was not actually in statute. But some people that have been used to being on food stamps for extended periods of time will notice that difference. I think people that have been eligible for Medicaid, that's the health insurance for lower income, there's going to be more restrictions on that because what we have to do is make sure that we don't have so much spending in those programs that people that legitimately need it can't get on it. So I think we're going to see some serious, discretion used, and that will be interesting for people.
Looking at the program, Senator Leising, too, that's a large portion of the budget for the state of Indiana. There's a huge portion of that goes towards these programs.
It is, and seriously, I think currently it's about 20% of the general fund, and it's eating away at things like funding for education, for K-12 education. K-12 education funding has always, for the last several years, been about 50% of our state general fund money. And to be honest, I think it's down to 47% now. It depends on what numbers you look at, but it is starting to slip away. And I think people would say, well, education funding is really pretty important. So I think that we got to get Medicaid and SNAP funding under control. Medicaid is really the one that is has been draining the budget. And I think that all started, Emily, when during the COVID years, when we had a lot of people out of work and we had to help them with their health insurance. And I think what happened, to be very honest, is there was not scrutiny to make sure that some of those people, after they were able to work and were working, to make sure they were removed from the Medicaid rolls. So I think that people that know that they're on Medicaid, but maybe didn't need to be anymore, they should probably look at getting that taken off those Medicaid rolls. So we'll see. Another issue that has been come up, and especially at the legislature, is there's some discussion, serious discussion, going on about gaming and maybe moving the Rising Sun casino to another area in the state. Now, the latest on that as of yesterday is that is not going to move, but that there will be a new license that could be granted to someone in the northeast corner of the state, or maybe only as far north as Fort Wayne. Now, what's interesting about that is there are people in our area, in your listening area, that are probably employed at Shelbyville at either the casino or racetrack. And we have to make sure that if a new license is granted, it doesn't harm those facilities, both in Shelbyville and Anderson. So I think there's going to be a lot of debate yet on that bill, but it will be one of the big ones left here in the last 10 days of the session. Technically, our session is supposed to end Friday, February 27th. And as of yesterday, I was told it's going to end then, no matter what has passed or what hasn't passed. So some pretty strong words. So I think that the leadership is determined that this short session will end then. There are other issues out there, Emily, is there any in particular that you were wondering about?
You know, we Mayor Marsh is on with us each Thursday, and he's talked about this, I think the last 2 Thursdays probably, but about the local control of the building code. I know that this has been something he's been to the State House and talked about as well, but high priority, and that's kind of weighing out that basis between local government keeping control versus it going to that state level. Do you have any input on that at this point?
Well, I do, and I think that bill is going to come to the Senate in the next few days. But I would tell you personally, I'm supportive of local control. Now, I talked to, ironically, I talked to the author of that bill last night, and he is determined to push that bill through. I tried to talk to him about my concerns for taking away local control, because, you know, a city like Greensburg is of different size and different needs than if we're talking about Zionsville or Carmel. And when someone is trying to fix something at the state level, I always say one of the things we have to worry about is, I used to say that we shouldn't use a sledgehammer to kill an ant, right? And honestly, I think that that bill goes too far from what I have heard and seen, and I would agree with my mayors that they need to retain local control. Another issue that's out there that has to do with, in a sense, local control, and that is the whole issue of trustees. There were 2 different trustee bills that were moving, but now maybe the House trustee bill might not be moving anymore. The Senate trustee bill may be. And what are those bills doing? Well, in some ways, they're going to cancel out the trustees in our smaller townships. Once again, it's kind of pushing the views of the bigger townships maybe located within bigger cities, onto our smaller. And I, you could debate both sides of that issue. I mean, some people say that there's a cost to having the smaller townships, but on the other hand, most of the people involved as township trustees in small townships are having very low salaries, and their township advisory boards are paid little or nothing. Whereas in our cities, some of the township folks make lots of money, lots of tax dollars in their salaries and benefits. So again, it's hard to find something that works for everybody, and I don't know what's going to happen to that bill either. So there are some pretty significant things, whether it's gaming, township, local control on building codes. Actually, the other big thing that's happening, and our governor has been very much a proponent for trying to downsize government regulation, and but by doing so, part of it is being put in state code or in statute, and also at the same time changing different things. An example has been there in the original bill, and I think this is maybe in the process of getting removed this week. They actually wanted to move the state chemist office from Purdue, that has the expertise and the laboratory, to Indianapolis, to the Department of Ag, which has very little facilities and not people that are capable of running the state chemist lab. So there are many bills like that have parts of them that I think are concerning, disturbing, and it's going to take a lot of legislative push to not allow those things to happen.
Senator Leising, I know we've talked before or in previous weeks. There were so many bills proposed in such a short session this year, and I know you expressed that concern earlier, that just getting through those bills and making sure that they're effective and what's in there needs to be. Do you feel like you have a better grasp on that since we're in the latter part now of this session?
No, I still think we've got things moving that shouldn't. I'm hopeful that some of these bills will be amended yet in the second house to fix them, so to speak. The other thing is, or if there's a lot of changes in the next 5 days, really, then those bills will go to what's called conference committee, where 2 senators, 1 from each party, and 2 representatives, 1 from each party, will actually try to work out the differences. If they can't work out the differences, the bill will not come back for a final vote, and those bills will die. So I think some of the most controversial ones may die in what we call conference committee, and that wouldn't be all bad. Next year we have a long session. It'll go from the first week in January till the end of April, and a lot more time to discuss the details in some of these things that could truthfully make significant change in the state. And I know we have a new governor, and I know that he wants change, but sometimes too much change is too quick is not necessarily good. I mean, a bill that a lot of people contacted me on, and that bill is effectively dead right now because it's not received a hearing, is House Bill 1333, and that was going to have really language that would allow local control of how ground could be used, farm ground specifically. It would take away that local control and put it in statute that maybe, for most people, they would say, so are you trying to force controversial things to be located in our counties? Controversial things like solar, like data centers, whatever, without the local control. Anyway, I think that that bill is effectively dead. I don't think any part of it will be brought back, but we will see. So you can tell there's just a lot of things that need more debate, more discussion, more input from our constituents. And that 1333 is one that I got a lot of contacts on, that people were very concerned about it. So we're going to see, Emily, what happens. But to be honest, I think if we right now ask the majority of legislators, they would say we can't get to the end of this session maybe quick enough in order to make sure that other things don't pass that have marginal approval. One of the things I want to bring up is I will be in Greensburg for the chamber
the legislative
luncheon.
update. Yes, this Friday.
Yes, and that's on Friday, the 20th, and according to my calendar, it's from 11:30 to 1 at the City Hall. So if anybody has any, interest in other issues that we haven't talked about, and if you have an issue that's really concerning you, don't hesitate to call me at the State House right now. I tell people don't email because it takes too long for me to get those emails when we're this close to the end. So the number to call the State House and leave a message for me is 1-800-382-9467. That's 1-800-382-9467. And I will get those messages if, I probably won't be able to answer the phone because it seems like in nonstop committees in session, but I will get those messages. So, and I appreciate your input. I mean, Emily, I have 7 counties, and believe it or not everybody in all 7 counties thinks alike, even on some of these more controversial issues. So I need your input so I can go with the majority.
I think too, from the local level, what we're hearing a lot, it's the local control that our local folks that are in office are talking about. It's that, and it's also the fallout of SB 1 or Senate Enrolled Act 1 now with the financial impact that could affect both city and county. So I think there's a lot of concern from Decatur County that's been expressed, and those elected officials have done a great job conveying that to us, and you as well. We appreciate your time every couple of weeks getting on with us and updating us with the State House and what's going on. I
hope that in the big tax bill, which I have not seen yet. I mean, here we are this close to the end, but what they call the DLGF bill, the Department of Local Government Finance, there's supposed to be some language in that bill that may provide at least some temporary relief for our cities and counties and schools. But honestly, I can't talk about the details because I honestly haven't heard them or seen them.
As you're nearing the end of this session, you've had several bills that you've proposed. Is there any that did not get a hearing that was one that you were certainly after and wanted to see go through?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a strong proponent for kids, besides knowing how to use electronic devices. I really think it's important for our kids to be taught to not only write cursive, which I worked on for a lot of years without success, but some kids are not even being taught to print anymore. And we have some elementary schools that have stopped teaching spelling in the early grades. Once again, they're blaming it on the fact that there's no need because of electronic devices. I don't agree with that. I think if we're going to have well-educated people, they're going to need to be able to read, write, spell, and all of those things build on each other. So unfortunately, Senator Rotz, the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, did not see fit to give that bill a hearing this year, and that's unfortunate. The other bill had to do with the management of our historic sites. There's 11 historic sites in our state, and Matamora in my district being one of them. And those historic sites have been managed, I would tell you, not very well by our state museum board. And actually, I want to move that management back to the Department of Natural Resources, who had it until 2011. Until 2011, there were no problems with it other than probably the typical funding problems that, all these entities need more funding to do what they need to do. But for whatever reason, I think the State Museum has focused on having a fine state museum, but not necessarily done a great job in management of our 11 historic sites. So that bill, although it passed out of natural resources, it did not survive appropriations where it needed to go next. There's also a bill that I'm hoping is going to move in the House this week, and that is the one that deals with the regulation of hemp or THC levels, and it would move that under the control of the Alcohol Tobacco Commission. That bill passed the Senate handily, but waiting still for further action in the House. I signed on to that bill, although it was not my bill to begin with. It was Senator Freeman's bill. But I think it's an important one because it deals with products like Delta 8 and other things that currently people can buy, young people probably can buy in our convenience stores. And it's not the best for them from a health standpoint. So I hope that bill continues to move. But again, there's so many things that are kind of out there that we don't know yet. And so maybe by Friday when I'm in Greensburg, I'll have a better idea of what other things happened this week. And people can express their concerns on what has moved along and what hasn't moved. So right. I appreciate the input. Okay.
All right. Senator Leising, we appreciate you. Thank you. This will be our last Tuesday check-in. Our session will be ending, but we appreciate all your time that you've given us and updated our listeners on what's going on at the State House.
Thank you very much, Emily.
All right. We look forward to seeing you on Friday, Senator Leising. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
Thanks. It's 8:31 here on Tree Country 1330. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's time for the Adult Center here on Tree Country 1330.